But what Haver didn't expect was this. Although not everyone can succeed, but successful people. It must have been killed from 1,000 people. The bright moon hangs high in the night sky. Like a beacon, bring a touch of light to the dark night. Jin Xiuhui is in a secluded and uninhabited place. Think of solutions on your own. First of all, a large mold is needed to set the shape. Let Little Buten and Little Bell go to the lake. Bring the water over and pour it in. The next step is to freeze the water into ice. But what is the principle of icing magic? I'm in my daily mana absorption training. I felt it. The natural world is a mixture of different natures. Magicians are supposed to use their own magical powers. Absorb the magic of a certain attribute in nature. This allows for the magic of using a single attribute. That's how magic works. Just figure this out. Jin Xiuhui. Although it is not possible to invoke a property mana arbitrarily, but he has his own method. The next day, Jin Xiuhui first asked the craftsman to make the actual mold. Then let the gigantic Little Buten and the Little Bells bring water from the lake. Fill the mold. The inner walls of the mold have been covered with licorice and fixed. It is convenient to remove the ice cubes from the mold and refine the oyster pulp later. Reach into the water and feel the magic of the water. The ability to absorb magic using Aslihan Star magic absorbs the warm mana of the water, and then the icy mana remains. Although figured out the principle, but in practice, it is still difficult to succeed. Haver watched Jin Xiuhui fail again and again. From the original disagreement with the young master's nonsense. At the moment, things are quietly changing. Right now, the affairs of the outside world have nothing to do with Jin Xiuhui. He intently absorbed the warm magic of the water. A chill gradually rose on the mold. A system prompt appeared in Jin Xiuhui's mind. You have developed an innovative application of the Aslihan Star method. Aslihan Star Law upgraded to Double Ring. Level 2. It took him a few days to complete the ice-making work. Then invite Arash and the team leader to inspect the sail. As soon as the two of them entered the stone ice vault, their whole bodies trembled. Then he looked in amazement at the neatly laid ice in front of him. Nugget Xiuhui raised his hand to tap the ice. It implies that the ice cubes are real and very strong. Then he said that the problem of ice cubes was solved. The rest only needs to be indoors and outdoors, separately covered with thermal insulation. The stone ice vault is completely completed. The group leader and Arash cheered excitedly. You don't have to throw meat in the future. Lone doesn't have to go hunting every day. Lonely One, everyone called over to take a look. As a commemoration of today's burning of 3 chickens. Lone Jin Xiuhui glanced at Haver arrogantly. He pointed to the neatly stacked ice cubes, as if asking, act first? How entrepreneurial spirit is in the end. Haver waved his hands on the probe, as if to answer, well, you won. Have a 3-meter-tall bodybuilder as a bodyguard. What is it like? The male protagonist greeted politely in a soft voice. The other party was so frightened that he knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. The stone freezer project ended perfectly. Jin Xiuhui not only got 120 workers. At the same time, he gained the friendship of the human race. Kind and simple people. It's not just a straightforward way to express gratitude. The full sense of ritual is also unique. Patriarch Akush said to Jin Xiuhui sincerely, thank you very much for your help to us. Ancient One, I just killed the clan. Akush made a pact to the human Lloyd. From this moment on, the Lone One gang killer will fight with the human Lloyd. The Frontrao family formed a blood alliance. Lonely at this time, all the orcs roared and turned sideways at the same time. Shows off solid back muscles and thick arms. Will, wild and unrestrained momentum and the confidence to immediately trek the mountain. It is vividly displayed. Patriarch Akush continued. Flantrao is our friend. The enemy of Flantrao is our enemy. If they're in danger, we're always on hand to help. Then, a system prompt suddenly popped up in front of Jin Xiuhui. Open up new races. The orcs became your friends. Increasing the orcs' friendship grants RP. This time, a special reward of 100 RP points will be issued. Currently holds 611 RP points. Receiving an RP reward unexpectedly made Kim Xiuhui very happy. Followed by the orcs and shouted, "Long live the Gangsen clan." Jin Xiuhui led the team on the journey back. After a long journey, reached the barony. When 120 green-skinned, muscular hunks walked into the village, the inhabitants of the territory were terrified, because in human cognition, receiving people is a symbol of terror, even if it is a man who was informed of the news by Jin Xiuhui in advance. After Lord actually met the orcs, or the whole person is scared to be in place. Jin Xiuhui saw the reaction of the villagers. I'm going to write a day to appease the people. The soldier who followed Kim Xiuhui back. Defeat the Dark Magister with Jin Xiuhui. As well as the feat of rescuing the soldiers, it spread. The system rewarded Jin Xiuhui with 300.2 horses again. It currently holds 911.2 horses. Jin Xiuhui will be subject to the Terrans. The gym equipment was handed over to the Baron. Then in the room, to study the incitement from Lu Filan. Movement brings back a magic item. Have her ask the young master, "Is there anything that can be exchanged for money?" Jin Xiuhui looked at the magic book and replied, "I'm going to see if it works before I sell it." The voice did not fall. A magic leaped into his eyes. He picked up the magic book and ran out. And as I ran, I said I was going to the mines. Jin Xiuhui is holding a magic book. Rush all the way to the entrance of the mine. Inside the mine, he shouted Toldes, "Where are Tolds?" Then, Torts took the initiative to come to Jin Xiuhui. "Are you looking for me?" Myoza briefly tells the previous plot. Tolds is a fraud lawyer. After being caught by Jin Xiuhui, forced to sign a 520-year contract of sale, Jin Xiuhui panted. He patted Tords on the shoulder. Good news, good news. Do you remember what our contract was about? You'll have to work for me for 520 years. Tolds replied with black lines on his face. Jin Xiuhui said happily, "That's not possible. That kind of clause is half-truth. But you don't have to worry about it anymore. It is written here to turn the corpse into a stone lion. The method of the devil's calling." Tolds was utterly desperate. Now, even if he's dead, this bully won't let him go. Jin Xiuhui said happily, "Such, you'll be able to work for 520 years. Be happy, be excited." Am I the only one who was happy? Give me a smile. Tolds thought he wasn't dead yet. Tears of happiness were crawling on his face in an instant. Jin Xiuhui playfully gestured to Uya. "Come on, I'm optimistic about you. The system compliments the Lord of Hell for your character. I'm going to hire you." Jin Xiuhui said that you were so annoying. I didn't do anything bad. Then he happily jumped out of the mine. Jin Xiuhui returned to the mansion to discuss something with the Baron. But he was nowhere to be found. A maid came over and told him, "The Baron is entertaining guests at the event." Kim Xiuhui asked who it was. "Maid, tell him that he is Mr. Sero and Mr. Mitloff." Jin Xiuhui was stunned at first, and then suddenly swooped. This expression startled the maid next to her. It seems that most of the people are going to be unlucky again. Baron's reception room. The two lenders arrogantly persecuted the Baron. You know that too. Our rule is to get your principal back in one lump sum. But this time you will be given special attention. Allows you to repay only 10% of your principal. And you need to take ownership of the mine. Transfer to us. The Baron was silent with a sad face. He didn't want to sell the mine, because the mine is already on track. It provides a lot of income every day. Then there was a knock on the door. Jin Xiuhui's voice came from the Baron outside. "I'm Lloyd. Can I go in?" The Baron is not stupid either, knowing that Lloyd is here to save the day. "Okay, come in." Jin Xiuhui smiled a friendly smile when he came in. It's like seeing a loved one you haven't seen for years. It's been a long time since you've seen each other. How are you doing lately? The fat man hurriedly lifted the invitation he had prepared in advance. Say we have an invitation. Don't try to threaten us anymore. Get out of here. Jin Xiuhui hurriedly said no. Then he said with a smile on his face, I've heard your good ideas outside. I'd like to give you a plan, okay? The fat man shook his fat face, pouted, and said, I don't want to listen to your plan. Jin Xiuhui didn't seem to hear the fat man's words. Talk to yourself. We will pay off the debt little by little later. So please reduce the interest rate after that. Jin Xiuhui's words made the fat man anxious. I said I didn't want to hear it. Why are you still talking? Shut up, said with a smile on his face. You can make random proposals. I can't do it. It's a bit of a bully. Jin Xiuhui's voice just fell. A green-skinned, muscular hunk walked into the room. Arash stood behind Jin Xiuhui, said angrily, How dare you bully my brother Lloyd? Two lenders see the orcs that suddenly appear. I was so scared that my pants were wet. Arash said with a gloomy face. You two look delicious. Especially this fat man must be full of oil and water when baked. Ding Xiuhui hurriedly played a round field and said, Oh no. Two distinguished guests. This man is my good brother Arash. He's very kind, don't be afraid. What do you think of my plan? If you reject my plan, I'm going to be very sad. My brother Arash will be angry too. His afternoon tea today. I haven't eaten it yet. A moment later, two put straps. The man ran out of the Baron's mansion with a stream of urine. I don't want to see a bastard again. Jin Xiuhui held the steel-signed agreement in his hand. I actually want to pay off the debt. But then we would be committing a crime. Now they're hiding. It's much better for us. Now the underfloor heating project continues to expand. Coal mining is also well underway. The debt should be paid off quickly. Kim Xiuhui handed over the new agreement to the Baron. Take care of it yourself. Then he said that there is a more troublesome matter now. It would be terrible if it wasn't worked out. The amount of food eaten by the average person is 10 times that of the average person. 120 recipients are equivalent to 1,200 ordinary people. Their meal costs are no joke. If we continue like this, we may be in debt again. Hear what Kim Xiuhui has to say. A burst of meaning welled up in the Baron's mind. Look at this cute little chubby mound. The first thing that came into the world. It's a big hole for the new owner. What kind of hatred is there between them? And soon the gang formed a faction and led the team. The Baron didn't expect the orcs to be so able to eat. Jin Xiuhui saw the Baron's face, knowing his worries about financial pressure. Then the events of these days. Simple evil to inform the Baron. Orcs are the best miners. This can be determined from the inundation yield in these days. Ordinary workers, just working to make ends meet. But the orcs are not like them. Orcs versus mining. It's almost obsessively fanatical. Such an incident happened the day before yesterday. A soldier anxiously called Jin Xiuhui to the mine. Pointing at an orc, he said in a loud voice, Master Lloyd. It's the orc. It's been 24 hours straight. Jin Xiuhui shouted an order to the soldiers next to him. Pull him out for me. He will not be allowed to enter the mine until tomorrow. 5. It was only the sturdy soldiers who barely dragged the orcs. The orc yelled anxiously, I didn't want to rest. Intentionally, I want to build muscles. Deliberately, orcs use unimaginable physical strength and a craze for building muscle. Increase the production of anicaps by a factor of 10. A tribal society that was subsisted by hunting. Money doesn't need to be circulating to get around, so they can work for free. The only requirement is to have a full meal. But this is a serious problem, because they are so edible. Jin Xiuhui continued. In order to solve the problem of eating for the orcs, we need to raise taxes dramatically, then use the money to buy meat for the orcs to eat. Take into account the productivity of submerged. This investment is definitely worth it. The Baron said to Jin Xiuhui, I understand what you mean, but the inhabitants of the territory were not wealthy in the first place. I can't raise taxes anymore. Please fix it and explain that you misunderstood me. There is no bottom line to increase the tax rate, which is squeezing and plundering. It will only inhibit the work of the people. Motivation and willingness to spend create a vicious circle. On the contrary, it will make taxes lower. After all, the income is the same. There is less and less money in the pocket. Who would dare to spend money on something so easily? The Baron asked how you wanted to increase your taxes. Jin Xiuhui replied, "Just let the people of the territory make more money. Then say the plan that you have already thought of. The Mares wetlands in the north of the territory have been abandoned for many years. We turn this land into farmland. Distribute it to the residents. As long as you work hard, you can become rich, without affecting the consumption of hospitals by residents. If you are raising some tax rates, our taxes are going to increase dramatically." After Jin Xiuhui promised to turn the wetland into farmland, the Baron finally agreed to Jin Xiuhui's plan. The next day, Jin Xiuhui came to the Mares wetland to investigate. The depth of the water is already close to the knee. The situation on the scene was more than expected. It's worse, but he still has to work hard to get it done. Jin Xiuhui used the data collected by the survey. Make a sand table according to a certain proportion. Such a complex terrain is most afraid of rain and waterlogging. So the first task is to solve the problem of natural drainage. Jin Xiuhui adjusted the sand table model again and again, failure after failure. Then repeat the adjustment again and again. Days of sleeplessness, exhausting the body to the limit. The Baron had come to see him a few times, but it never bothered him to think. Baron looked at Jin Xiuhui, who was engaged in research without distraction, talking to oneself once upon a time. "I hate him so much," was already disheartened with him. But now he's miraculously changed. Do all your best for the territory and for the family. Haver agreed with the Baron. "You're right. The current young Master Lloyd. It's about taking responsibility for what you say, and people who will definitely not give up." The system prompts Jin Xiuhui. The Baron's opinion of you increases. You get 20.2 horses. It currently holds 931.2 horses. Hard work pays off. Jin Xiuhui finally successfully tested the drainage model. A wide canal was excavated along the perimeter of the wetland. The interior of the wetland varies according to the elevation, split into different chunks. The water from each block is then discharged into the periphery separately. Canal at this time. Jin Xiuhui has already thought about increasing taxes. Golden coins are flying all over the sky. And after paying off foreign debts, the retirement life of living in the secret is gone. Problem solving can finally relax. At this time, a system prompt suddenly appears. Your energy has a huge impact on skill design. You've developed a new configuration skill. Jin Xiuhui looked at the system panel and muttered to himself. Configure the Skill 3 simulation mode. According to the measured data, it will be operated in a fictional space and simulated. After reading the instructions, enter the practical operation stage. After the skill is activated, you can think of a three-dimensional model in your mind, projected out of thin air. You can adjust the coordinates of the model by hand. Next, the ability calculates and infers the adjusted result. If it fails, the reason for the failure and specific data will be given. Jin Xiuhui suddenly became furious. Can't you have given me something so good sooner? It made me suffer for a month. The system replied slyly. Didn't you say you could handle it yourself? And there is only wisdom that can be comprehended alone. To evolve into a skill, this is a characteristic that arises according to your wishes. Jin Xiuhui calmed down. Asked when I first came to this world. You also mentioned wishes or something, but I still don't understand. What does my desire have to do with coming into this world? I just want to graduate from college without a hitch. You can get into a good company by taking a few qualifications. You don't have to worry about money. The system tells him that that's just your goal. Desire is a stronger expectation that transcends time and space. Jin Xiuhui patted the dust on his body at this time. Say since you're starting to. There's no need for us to talk. Then call out Little Budong and Little Bell. Stroked the two cuties and said, let's go meet new people. Direct access to the vast Mares wetlands. Far away, at the foot of the mountain, in the afterglow of the setting sun. The surface of the water reflects the golden glow like a mirror. Jin Xiuhui took Xiao Budong and Xiao Ling. The bell came to the edge of the wetland. Said to himself, the first step in the Mares reclamation project. We need to put the wetlands inside. All the water is drained. This sentence put the little Budong on the shoulder, and the little bell was scared silly. The two hairy children remembered that they had the lake in their mouths. The water helped Jin Xiuhui make ice cubes. Is it necessary to clean up so much water this time? Xiao Budong waved his little hand desperately. Indicates that the work is too difficult. Jin Xiuhui smiled and said, don't be afraid. I know you two do this. It's a bit hard, so I'm going to smoke another one now. Jin Xiuhui's swap system opens the lottery bar. This draw turned out to be 100.2 horses. It looks like it will increase by 1.5 times with each draw. Jin Xiuhui pressed the lottery button. I hope to draw one who can become big and escape the water. He thought that Pu Tsong would still be on the ground with his face after coming out. It turned out to be too close. Fantasy Pu flew out of the magic circle statically. Bang him in the face. The nosebleed erupts uncontrollably into a ball. After jumping a few times, he stopped. A little chubby Dun happily looked up at the new owner. He kept shouting Hama. Jin Xiuhui stared at the little guy in front of him. I guessed that it was a hippopotamus drinking water. Little Budong and Little Bell. Introduce yourself to your new partner. Hama Jr. also introduced himself to them. The three little ones quickly became friends. Happy playing in circles. Jin Xiuhui said sorry to Little Hama. Excuse me. Can you show me your instruction manual? Little Hama spat a ball out of his mouth. Saliva-covered paper. Jin Xiuhui looked at the instructions for use of the wet data. When I saw that the instructions said to eat melons. When the child cannot be enlarged. His face changed immediately. Then he looked at Little Hama with disgust on his face. In my mind, I already decided that most of them were useless things. Pay attention to this innocent and cute chubby. Many days are about to be disgusted by the owner. Not only did the eldest sister of the gang fight for him, and the big brother and sister went on strike at the same time to defend his rights. Jin Xiuhui looked at Little Hama with disgust. Little Hama happily awaited the master's compliment. After a moment of silence, Jin Xiuhui said to the system to help me pop up the lottery case. I'm going to draw it again. Hear the words of the host. Little Hama was struck by lightning. The system told Jin Xiuhui that he could only draw once a day. Jin Xiuhui complained about what this is called. What a waste of my time. Little Hama was aggrieved. Cried Xiao Budong's comforting hug. Remembered that he was disgusted like this for the first time. Xiao Budong is also very aggrieved. Little Bell angrily accused Jin Xiuhui of being excessive. The bastard broke the hearts of 3 little babies. Jin Xiuhui explained, you also know, the next thing to do needs to be big. Little Hama is too small to help. Little Budong and Little Bell don't want to listen to the bad guy's nonsense. Direct threat of strike. Little Hama watched his 2 new friends support him so much. I was so moved that I was about to cry. Faced the terrifying threat of 2 little babies. Jin Xiuhui made a reluctant compromise. Then he casually asked, okay, Little Hama, what are your skills? I guess the most I can do is hand over a flower. Little Hama told Kim Xiuhui. His skill is a mouthful. The name of this skill intrigued Jin Xiuhui. Can you take a sip of water? Little Hama nodded to confirm that it was okay. Jin Xiuhui then asked how much water you could stuff. Little Hama shook the only fur. Slap belly. Tell Jin Xiuhui that it's the size of his belly. The more Jin Xiuhui thought about it, the more strange it became. It's like every time you need something, you can draw out anything, and it's a little too good. Sahama walked shyly towards the shore. Get ready to show off your skills. Then lie down on the shore and start drinking. Jin Xiuhui, looking at little Hama's slightly larger body. I'm not sure if I'm dazzled. Little Hama's body grew like a balloon. The fine puff of the big-ass top is unsteady on his feet, gradually retreating. The little water left gathered together. Little Hama smothered into the ground. By this time, the ground had largely dried up. Only a few small puddles remain. The muddy ground is dotted with several unlucky fish. It kept bouncing. Jin Xiuhui didn't expect it. Little Hama's mouthful was so violent. Such a large pond. Take the pump and pump it well. I didn't expect it for a few days. After a while, he was drunk by little Hama. Xiao Boidong and Xiao Bell looked at Jin Xiuhui proudly. It's like saying that you're looking at the horses. Jin Xiuhui asked the system out of the corner of his eyes. I said, Mr. System, is this really a random draw? How can it be so coincidental every time? Draw the skills I need. The system is not responsible for fooling him. Usually when you turn around and go to another world, everyone will bring the ability to hang up. But not only is your fate tragic, the conditions are also unfavorable. So you're 8 out of 8%. Lottery luck, this kind of awesome ability. Of course, it could be for some other reason. Jin Xiuhui looked at this big flicker. I took all the other party's words just now as a fart. At this time, little Hama asked Jin Xiuhui, do you still need to drink it? His stomach wasn't full yet. Jin Xiuhui happily said, don't worry. Tomorrow you'll be left with an all-you-can-drink finish. When the sun rises again in the east, reclamation work in Mares officially began. The first step is to get little Hama to drink the water from the wetlands. Then go to the potato pulp. When the volume becomes smaller, come back and repeat the operation. Step 2. Have workers remove weeds and trash from the ground. Step 3 is for Haver to impress with his blasting skills. Step 4. Insert bamboo into the hole created by the blast. The inside of the bamboo is filled with bamboo joints in advance. Step 5. Use coarse sand to fill the hole and make a yarn pile. Then the hut-tune was crushed by the Hastaloy Foundation. Step 6. After groundwater infiltration into Bamboo Creek management, little Hama went to take another sip. Step 7. Build the embankment. Simulation patterns were developed as a result of design skills. Jin Xiuhui will be embankment. The anti-scheme is more refined. Firm. Finally completed an area after 10 days. Jin Xiuhui made a post-completion summary of the first area. We still have a long way to go. Need to continue to suffer. But wait until all the work is done. It's everyone's bonus party. Hectic work. Time flies. Haver looked at it with emotion. Land that was once abandoned. Now it's really farmland. But the thing that confused him the most was, I don't know since when, he actually helped the young master with the construction as a matter of course. Even forgot about the sword in his hand. When did it turn into a shovel? The new repairer ran towards him with a bag in his hand. Haver is the seed. You plan over there and give it a try. Haver tried to argue that I was a knight. Why should I, Jin Xiuhui, not wait for him to finish? That's how you can get rid of the pests. Please protect our territory. Knight-sama. Haver naturally took the seed and waited for it to be said. Got it. Haver depressedly sowed the seeds as the young master asked. Cheer himself up silently in his heart. You are dead by him again. Next time, you must resolutely refuse him. Then the Baron's voice sounded behind him. I didn't expect this wetland to really become farmland. The Baron and the lady approached him. The Baron then went on to warn me. Possible. All the inhabitants of the territory are of the same mind. It's truly a miracle. Jin Xiuhui, who was patrolling the embankment. Suddenly, you receive a system prompt. All members of the territory. are all amazed at the miracles you have created. Based on your social contributions, a large number of second batches of rewards will be issued. Awarded 450.2 horses. It currently holds 1,281.2 horses. Under the careful care of Haver, the seeds that were planted in the first place. Now there is a growing trend of joyful support. Haver watched the little life thrive. For the first time, I felt a sense of accomplishment in farming and the expectation of a bountiful harvest. Jin Xiuhui sat on the embankment easily, said to Haver that he just had to load the water wheel again. That's the end of it. Haver wondered what to do with the water wheel. Jin Xiuhui explained, water trucks can pump out stagnant water after rain. Otherwise, the fields that are hard to be cultivated, it will be submerged again. Skilled workers should also be about to arrive, because the sound of horses' hooves in Roy Town came from far and near. I saw a group of people riding arrogantly on horses. Oncoming. Jin Xiuhui asked who these people were. Haver said, pointing to a white-haired curly. That one was Mara's wet. Viscount Lachna in the north. Out of the crowd came a man on horseback. Not only did they not dismount, and said to them haughtily, who is in charge of the construction site here? Haver didn't expect that. Dare someone disrespect the young master? I'm going to teach this guy a lesson right away. But he was stopped by Jin Xiuhui. Jin Xiuhui told him that he was the person in charge. The knight asked, you don't know, it's Viscount Rachner. Land, I command you to get out of here. Face a group of bandits who have been killed halfway. How will Jin Xiuhui teach this group of fools a lesson? This man is in the midst of many doubts. Stick to a few pieces. The land of FAW that will be abandoned for hundreds of years. It becomes fertile soil. He was able to achieve epic-making greatness. It's all because of the good brothers by his side. Fight the storm with him. Jin Xiuhui faced the knight's questioning. I knew very well in my heart that what the other party said was right. Brother Merez has been abandoned for hundreds of years. No one has ever set foot on it, but from the administrative division. To the north was the fiefdom of the Viscount of Lacona. To the south is the fiefdom of Lord Frontron. Obvious. He's just waiting for us to finish the reclamation. Come and take over the fruits of our labor. He wanted to swallow this fertile land for nothing. Dream, Jin Xiuhui asked. So self-realization means? Have we illegally encroached on your territory? Discrimination is right. Consciously have the right to administer this territory. Jin Xiuhui was really tired of the guy in front of him. Speak directly to him. You don't see it. Is it now that our aristocrats are talking to each other? Can you keep your mouth shut, you stupid magpie? One sentence blocked the discrimination. There was an instant silence all around. Jin Xiuhui is done. A gentleman said late. I am Lloyd, the eldest son of the House of Flantrau. Viscount Lachner said without anyone in his eyes. The eldest son, Lloyd, who was shallow in virtue. That's you. Call your father to beat him. I have nothing to say to you. The words of the other party are so rude. Haver was indignant. Jin Xiuhui is a scoundrel with a strong heart. How can it be affected by a sentence? Fucking the earwax, completely ignoring him. Silence fell again. There's a good saying, as long as you don't feel embarrassed. I don't feel embarrassed. The first person who can't hold his breath loses half. Viscount Lachner saw that Jin Xiuhui did not go back to find someone. Nor do they speak. Just stand in front of you and pick out the earwax. Treat him completely as heir. He said a little impatiently, didn't you hear what I said? Go and call Baron Trontrau. Jin Xiuhui continued to pick out the earwax whip. I heard the casual answer very clearly. I heard the buzzing of flies from nowhere. Then he blew his fingers gently. Viscount Lachner really thought there were flies on the side. Look around. The young knight on the side couldn't stand it. Hurry up and remind the Viscount that he was insulted by the other party. Jin Xiuhui was so stupid when he saw Lachner. I don't think it's fun to bully fools. He began to recite the laws of the kingdom like a few treasures. according to Law Number 321 of the Land Code of the Kingdom. Special legislation on the reclamation of poor and sick land. Lacona has a problem with IQ self-conscious. I finally figured out that I was insulted. Just about to lose his temper, he was interrupted by Jin Xiuhui. Jin Xiuhui continued. Article 1. The purpose is to reclaim the poor land that has been characterized by long-term temperament. Establish ownership of their land. No matter how indignant Viscount Lackner was at this time, Jin Xiuhui ignored it. Always memorize the second definition of the kingdom law. The land of the poor and sick is only abandoned. More than 100 years. Land that has not been inhabited or cultivated. Jin Xiuhui just recited them one by one. Viscount Lackner's face gradually turned the color of pig liver. Cold sweat slid down her cheeks. Jin Xiuhui slowly walked towards Viscount Lackner. Squat down and grab the potato leaves. Pull the potatoes out of the soil at once. Jin Xiuhui continued. The land. Crops should have been harvested more than once. At this moment, Viscount Lackner finally panicked. He didn't expect that. Jin Xiuhui recited the law word for word. Haver was stunned. A few months ago, the young master asked him to plant the seeds in the field. And at that time it was said that the purpose was to get rid of pests. Once again, the young master knew in advance what had not happened. Jin Xiuhui happily said that you witnessed Mares Vicini's first harvest scene. I won't charge you tickets. Ha ha. Viscount Lackner was no longer shocked in his heart. It's a horror. It feels like this man is unpredictable in advance of the profit. Be prepared. Jin Xiuhui happily offered the potatoes in his hand. Say it's a trip for nothing. This gift is for you. Then his face instantly became fierce. Said, can you leave from our territory now? Viscount Lackner steals chickens less than 18 meters. I was angry and hateful in my heart, but there was nothing I could do. A group of fools who lack integrity came to worship and return. The only thing to gain is to be refined. Xiuhui ruthlessly trampled. Harver approached and asked, young master, where did you get the prophecy? Know in advance that they will come. Jin Xiuhui naturally said that there was no prophecy. It's just this kind of sitting. I've seen a lot of garbage. This is the enthusiastic cheers of the workers coming from behind. Long live Master Lloyd. Jin Xiuhui. I really don't get used to this feeling of being in the spotlight. Deliberately put on a vicious face and shouted goodbye. Hurry up and give me the job. On the occasion of sending summer and welcoming autumn, heavy rains are unexpected. And so on. The whole of Mercevicini was shrouded in rain. Workers have found shelter from the rain. Jin Xiuhui was still sitting alone in the rain, examining Wikini. Although he did Monty hundreds of times, but it must have really been through the storm, to determine if Mara's Vikini can be used. Jin Xiuhui didn't pay attention. A white lace umbrella suddenly appeared overhead, quietly shielded him from the wind and rain. Haver quietly came to his side to accompany him. Storm. The pouring rain did not destroy the Mercevicini. Jin Xiuhui was finally relieved. At this time, the system keeps appearing prompts. You've made a groundbreaking construction achievement. You will be on the continent of Laua. Make a clear footprint as a civil engineer. Rewards a large amount of skill XP. Measurement skills have been upgraded by 2 levels in a row. Design skills have been upgraded by 2 levels in a row. Everyone's opinion of you has increased. Currently holds 1,355. 2 horses. On the other side is the Viscount of Lackner. Luckner listened angrily to the administrator's report. The administrator told him, Mares Vicini came up with a relocation policy. Those who sign up can take the land for free, and 3 years of protection are granted. Correspondingly, you need to live for 5 years and cannot relocate. Viscount Lackner understood immediately. Occupants, in order to maintain their land, in the remaining 2 years, will definitely take care of the land. Mares Vicini will provide a great deal of wealth. Lackner is the kind of person who sees others make money. like a person who loses money himself. What's more, half of the land was originally his. He made up his mind, and scrupulous means are also needed to grab the land. One morning a few days later, Jin Xiuhui felt a splitting headache after getting up. I don't know what the reason is, but a bunch of things await him. He still can't rest. Jin Xiuhui woke up the sleeping Haver. Unexpectedly, Haver also had a painful expression on his face. Haver said to himself strangely, "It turned out to be a headache." Never before. Haver's words attracted the attention of Jin Xiuhui. When things go wrong, there must be demons. How could it be possible for both of them to have a headache at the same time? Someone must be doing something in the dark. Keep an eye out for this cute little chubby mound. Use only one skill. It holds up the hope of a territory. 12,500 tons of water of life are transported back and forth every day. Hard-nosed skills from level 1 to level 3. Jin Xiuhui and Haver found after investigation. Everyone in the village had a headache, and the animals are avoiding water. Now it's almost certain that the water source is the problem. Jin Xiuhui's knowledge of the content of the Predator Knight's novel, so that he has a lot of possession in this world. Big intelligence advantage. But since the Ammon incident, he understands the world. There is something other than fiction. Reclamation. Mars Viceni is a plot that is not present in the novel. Rachna's key. So he guessed about his understanding of human nature. In order to guard against Luckner's retaliation, he had investigated Lackner. The main income of the Lackner territory is dyeing techniques. And dyeing uses the fruit of Ladona. But it's poisonous. Jin Xiuhui spliced and sorted out all kinds of information. The clue eventually points to Rachner. The scene moves to the Baron's reception room. The young knight came to convey Luckner's mouth, threatening the Baron to transfer half of the Mresvi for sure. Otherwise, the dye wastewater will continue to be discharged. Luckner's shameless tactics infuriated the Baron, claiming to go to the court of the nobility of the kingdom to sue. But the other party didn't care at all, because even if the Baron's side wins the lawsuit, it will take at least 2 years for the verdict to be issued. But the problem of water in front of the Baron. But it is a real and urgent need. The Baron swore that he would not compromise. The other party didn't care and was ready to leave. Jin Xiuhui is here. After entering the door, he said to the Baron, the bastard next door, moved in the river. The young knight walked out from behind the door. He shouted while holding his swollen face, "Is this an insult to my lord?" Jin Xiuhui was startled by the sudden appearance of the voice. "Scream, stupid. Why are you here?" The young knight yelled angrily at Jin Xiuhui. "Lloyd, you twice insulted the discrimination of honor. I applied a duel with you. The results can be imagined." As expected, he was beaten by Jin Xiuhui. "This is stupid." Before running to the barony of Flantrau, I didn't even investigate Jin Xiuhui's experience. He doesn't get beaten. Who gets beaten? A knight was beaten with a shovel and cried, lying on the ground and begging for mercy. Jin Xiuhui only got up and took a breath a little and said, "Okay." I was deflated. But it's another thing for you to be unreasonable with the Baron. For the first time, the Baron felt insulted by his son. Discriminatory acts. Why is it so enjoyable? Yelled at Kim Xiuhui for Lloyd. The duel is over. Why are you still beating him? Ha! When the young knight returned to see Lacona. Lacona no longer recognized the pig's head. Who is it? And then scolded this waste. Suddenly, he discovers an unexpected bonus. Maybe it's not necessarily a bad thing for one of his knights to be beaten, because it can muddy up the whole thing. Originally, it was a unilateral black hand by himself. Now it can be said that it is. Violence among the nobility. Trials in the courts. It may take more than 4 years. Luckner's cautious thoughts. It was far away in Flantrau. Jin Xiuhui of Desperate Ridge guessed. It's really not fun to bully fools. But this fat rich fool. Send yourself to the evil whistle bowl. Bastard evil young doesn't beat him drum and suck his mouth. Jin Xiuhui. Give full play to your talent for speaking. A few easy words ignite the flame of revenge within. Evil devils. Polluting our water sources with underhanded means. Not only does it hurt our families, poison our cattle and sheep, and now we have to plunder our land. Let's crush his plot with these iron fists. Jin Xiuhui successfully introduced the name. In the follow-up plan, workers worked twice as hard in order to solve the looming problem of drinking water. The first step is to build a 12,500-ton capacity water storage capacity. Stone next. Let Little Hama go upstream where there is no water pollution yet. Hang the water with a sip of skill. Carry the water of life non-stop throughout the day. Little Hama's mouthful skills. Upgrade from level 1 to level 3. Have her ask the young master worriedly. Do so. You and Little Hama won't have a day off. Jin Xiuhui replied yes. However, this is only a temporary benefit. The next step is to build the water system. From Lake Capua in the eastern mountains to our territory. Build a waterway. Have her asked. It's a lot of resources to invest in such a long distance. Kim Xiuhui affirmed Haver's idea. You're right. It's definitely going to be a loss. But I'll get it back 100 times with interest. A few months later in Ragnar's office, he is anxiously thinking about a solution to the dilemma. Matters are reported to Lloyd for an audience. Luckner roared that he wasn't available right now. Let him be off. The officer's next words. Let him calm down a little. Lloyd said, You've been experiencing a headache lately. He wants to help you out. After the bastard came to the reception room, pose like a hooligan. Place one foot on the coffee table. There is no aristocratic demeanor at all. With a lewd smirk, he said oops to Ragnar. Our Viscount is really full of spring breeze. Luckner Hadron endures. Keep a gentlemanly demeanor and say what is wrong with you. I'm busy today. If you have something, say it quickly. Jin Xiuhui said, teasing with a hippie smile. Didn't your view of business tell you? I'm here to help you out. Luckner's heart was flustered and cold sweat flowed. But he still said stiffly, What nonsense! What can I worry about? Jin Xiuhui pointed at him shyly. Are you sure you're not in a hurry? Maybe I can. Save your dye shop that is about to go out of business. Lacona, though intellectually insufficient. But even the stupidest people now understand. Viciously staring at Jin Xiuhui and said, Sure enough, you secretly destroyed my dye workshop? Jin Xiuhui replied fiercely to the respected Lacona. Be self-conscious and be confident. Removing the word mom is what Lao Tzu did. This man is too cruel. The demons of hell will know themselves before him. The younger brother, he is a hooligan and villain who is extremely greedy for money. Not only is the martial arts superb, and he is familiar with the laws of the kingdom. Use obscene means to front the nobility of the kingdom. As long as the nobility lives for one day, he will suck the blood for a day, and even the children and grandchildren of the nobility, and they will all be sucked by him. Jin Xiuhui sat on the sofa. Tell the story without hurrying. Because of the Viscount, you discharge wastewater. We can only bring the water from the distant Lake Capua. Of course, we started with it. I didn't know you were discharging wastewater. Thanks to the stupid thoughtfulness of the Viscount's palace. Explain the situation at the door. Say you're deliberately discharging wastewater. That's how I found out. When Jin Xiuhui said this, I deliberately pulled the two words long. We will pipe the trench. Dig all the way from Lake Capua to the territory. Splicing from pipes. Block the interface. Polishing the inner wall of the pipe. To the inner wall of the external antiseptic treatment, and finally buried in the ground. I really endured all kinds of hardships. Lacona saw that Jin Xiuhui had been going around in circles. Impatient yelling, Stop talking nonsense. What the hell did you do to my dye workshop? Jin Xiuhui said unhurriedly, Oh, don't worry. Listen to me slowly. Half of us. On the way, I came across a very large ravine. Intercepted our path. What can I do? I had no choice but to do anything. Only one waterway bridge could be built for the pipeline. When Jin Xiuhui said this, put the last resort. Helplessly, the 8 characters are very long. We need limestone in order to collect it. Only blasting works can be used. You also know that limestone is very hard. It is difficult to dig manually. Outcome: the limestone was accidentally scattered under the bone. Jin Xiuhui once again elongated the 3 words carelessly. The huge limestone layer is completely exposed. Luckner is finally amazing. This bastard went around in circles for a long time without getting to the point. Yelled at Jin Xiuhui that it was enough. What does this have to do with my dye workshop? Jin Xiuhui is almost finished. Finally gave the answer that Lakona wanted. The stream officially dug itself. The water source for your workshop. The lime ingredient dyes your garment a historic color. Luckner was furious to the point of being a bastard. Aren't you afraid of legal sanctions? I will sue you in the court of nobles. Jin Xiuhui said calmly, you go and sue. But it will take at least 2 years for the verdict to be issued. I don't know, 2 years later. Does anyone remember your item? Such a familiar rhetoric. Such a familiar scene. It's just that the positions of the 2 sides are reversed. It turned into a cold sweat on Lakona's anxious face. The face is like a pig's liver, and the cemetery has been reached. Get ready to take your leave. Lakona roared at Jin Xiuhui, who was about to leave. Do you know how many people in the palace I know? I'm going to make you double my damages. Jin Xiuhui lazily ignored him. Make a casual gesture behind you. Just left naturally. On the way back, have her ask Master Lloyd. You provoke him so much that it only angers him at most. He's going to go to court and sue us. And he does have an inextricable relationship with the capital. It's a hassle to make a little gesture to us. Jin Xiuhui replied, I understand what you mean. I'm doing this today for 2 purposes. One purpose is to tell him directly who his opponent is. He went everywhere to investigate, delaying precious time. Now that the thing has been done, an outbreak is a matter of time. Another purpose is to give him a way to live. I can't really watch his dye workshop go out of business. I'm counting on more money from his dye workshop. What I want is money to cure him. Hee, it's up to him to be ruthless. As for the law, you can rest assured. The Baron likewise had connections in the capital. No matter how small he is, nor can it be outside the law, as long as it is in accordance with the rules of the game of the law. We can't lose. A month later, Lakona knelt down in front of Kim Xiuhui and sincerely apologized, and begged Kim Xiuhui how to save his dye workshop. This scene shocked Haver behind Jin Xiuhui. The high-up Lakona is self-conscious. Actually knelt down for the young master, and the young master was so calm, as if he had known the outcome for a long time. Now the refinement of the how exudes the strong self-confidence of the superior. Those friends of yours say you can't win the case. Is that right? Whether it's because there is an essential difference in our behavior. Your actions are intentional, and my actions were forced and unintentional. Luckner pressed his head almost to the ground, without much explanation. Just keep saying sorry. Jin Xiuhui said indifferently. I'm not interested in apologies. Luckner humbly said that I am realized. Giving up dignity asks you. Jin Xiuhui didn't wait for Ragnar to finish. Just interrupt him. The contemptuous idiot laughed at dignity and that kind of thing. Is it worth a dime? If it was worth it, I would have sold it tens of thousands of times. Luckner's illusions were completely shattered. Before coming here, I have struggled countless times about whether to let go of my dignity. I thought I just had to kneel down on my knees. The other party will definitely forgive him. Unexpectedly, this bastard doesn't even care about any of that. Jin Xiuhui was almost over after seeing the fire. Pulling out a contract from his bosom, with a kind smile, say I don't need your apology. As long as you sign the contract, you're good to go. After you sign for confirmation, drain pipes to your dye workshop. It can be laid in less than a week. Lakona didn't expect Jin Xiuhui to come with such a hand. Just now I was still crying bitterly, instantly become cautious. It turns out that this sixth man has been pretending to be forced all along. Sure enough, the leaders are all actors. After he took the contract, looked through each clause carefully. I always felt that this contract was a huge hole. When he saw the price, his face turned white. Protests loudly that this is too expensive. It's just water everywhere. Doesn't it seem outrageous to set such a high price? Jin Xiuhui glared at Ragnar viciously. Said I've signed this contract. It can be used to clean your dye workshop. The water source can also save me from going to court to sue you. Do you still think it's expensive? Ragnar is like seeing hell. The ordained demon stood before him. He was utterly hopeless. Choose bankruptcy and jail time, or choose to be crushed by the devil. Get a temporary subsistence. His end, it has already been set by Jin Xiuhui. He simply did not have a choice. Kim Xiuhui will Ragnar sign the contract. Give it to the Baron. Baron, look at the huge amount of money that can be earned every month on the contract. Can't believe it's true. Jin Xiuhui said yes with certainty. This is the autograph of Viscount Ragnar. The Viscount is very talkative. He's a great man. Haver stood silently behind Kim Xiuhui, thinking that although it was the Viscount who provoked right and wrong first, the young master also brought benefits to the realm and the Baron. But the content of the contract is really cruel. The current young master looks like a demon no matter how he looks at it. When Haver saw the devil's face, Kim Xiuhui thought of something extremely happy in his heart. The expression on his face changed unconsciously. The contract didn't say anything about the equipment. Other words, Ragnar will be sucked by my blood for the rest of his life. Even if Ragnar is gone, his descendants will also be sucked by my blood. How could I make him suffer? So simply, I'm going to drain every capillary out of him. The Baron looked up and saw Jin Xiuhui's expression, suddenly trembling and saying, "What is going on with your expression?" "Father, I was a little scared." Jin Xiuhui replied that he was sorry, because I thought of something that was so happy. The Baron said, "The old treasure you got from the Terrans." Jin Xiuhui thought it was strange, asked about his kind of big guy. "I think I could buy a brand new one." "Why buy the old one?" The Baron replied that I didn't know the details. I just heard that he wanted to build a bronze statue. At this moment, far away in the trading city of Canto Cremo, stand quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of your office. Look at the calm sea in front of you. That's when it happened. Something terrible happened. On the sea, suddenly a huge water balloon like a small mountain bulged, with the water polo high in the air, set off a monstrous wave, rushing to the city on the shore. Followed by, a huge monster appears on the surface of the sea. Look up to the sky and roar. Roar of rage. Who would have thought? In front of the extreme cold winter of freezing countless cattle and sheep. This orphan, a rough horse walk with only a slow pole, just survived the ruins alone. Who would have thought? Simply because of these warm hands. Kindly used it once, touching the head and killing the little boy. In the end, he became the invincible sword master of the mighty Fist continent. The barony of Frontrau at the end of the East and the beginning of the East. There was a hint of chill in the weather. People put away their autumn clothes and put on their winter clothes. Haver stood behind the Baron. Report on Jin Xiuhui's itinerary. A week later, completion of rice works in the Lacona territory. The young master was ready to leave for Cremo. In order to reduce the cost as much as possible, the young master planned to bring only 10 entourage. The Baron said casually as he pruned the branches, "I know, since this is what Lloyd meant." The Baron paused abruptly, because he suddenly realized, I don't know when it started. I actually recognized Lloyd so much. Haver thought that the Baron was worried about the young master's trouble. "Hurry up and assure you that you don't have to worry. I'll keep an eye on Master Lloyd." The Baron began to talk to himself. Lackness felt that the knights had come to the door. threaten us to hand over half of the mare. Be sure, if I used to be afraid, they may be promised. But since seeing Lloyd and the efforts of the inhabitants of the territory courageously rejected the threat. After all, I used to be an indecisive and incompetent lord. Haver looked at the Baron's lonely back. I think back to that cold winter when the snow was falling. Young self, lonely and helpless, wrapped in burlap full of holes. Cecit is on the corner of the street like a ruin. He had forgotten how long it had been since he had eaten a full meal. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. This is a handsome young aristocrat. Come to him. A warm hand was extended to him. It was a picture he would never forget. Haver said to the Baron sincerely, "Your heart is warmer and kinder than anyone else. I also love drama zimming." The Baron smiled and said, "Thank you for saying this to me. But just by that, it doesn't mean I'm a good lord. The leader must have strong convictions and strong action, just like Lloyd now." What the Baron says about Lloyd leave Haver in deep thought. If the young master knew the Baron's evaluation, maybe something like this will be said to praise merit. What kind of about generosity and kindness? Roll away. Lao Tzu only needs money. Ha! The Baron suddenly turned around and said solemnly, "Later, your task is no longer to spy on Lloyd. I ask you to protect the heir to the realm." Lloyd Haver hesitated, because he heard the deeper meaning of the Baron's words. It was hoped that he would become a knight of Lloyd, although he served the Frontrow family. But he really wanted to follow. But it was the Baron in front of him. Haver's mind went back to his childhood. Once the Baron asked him curiously, "Haver, what do you want to do in the future? As long as it's something I can do, I will definitely help you." Haver Jr. was a little shy and embarrassed. But in the end, I mustered up the courage to say it. "I want to be a knight who guards you." The Baron happily touched little Haver's head. "Say thank you. Haver, you're a kid who survived that winter alone. I believe you. He will definitely become the strongest knight in the world in the future." After that, the Baron himself sharpened a wooden sword and gave him as a gift to little Haver. Little Haver is like a treasure, cherished like life. After Master Lloyd found out about this, ran to snatch his wooden sword, point at his nose, and tease him that you are an orphan, not worthy of being a knight. I'm dreaming in my next life. And he broke the wooden sword in front of him. This thing, Harver's young master, who had always hated Roy. But in the end, he agreed to the Baron's request. When night falls, the people of the territory fell asleep one after another. Haver came to Jin Xiuhui's bedroom. When I looked up, I saw the tomb inspection hanging on the wall. That wooden sword had become the young master's trophy, hung there for many years. Haver was sure again. I hate the young master very much. Jin Xiuhui saw Haver come in. Then he smiled and said, "Welcome. This guest, thank you for choosing again. Lullaby service in Flantrau. Is it that you can't live without a lullaby? You are a symptom of addiction. If you don't listen to me, I'll stop the service immediately." Haver said in annoyance, "You say this line every day. I'm tired of hearing about it. Let's get started." When Jin Xiuhui began to recite the steel bar, concrete time, Haver's consciousness began to blur uncontrollably. Just before he fell asleep, in a trance, the events of the recent succession flashed before my eyes. The young master chooses the most dangerous job to investigate. Learn from the depths. The young master overcame difficulties with an entrepreneurial spirit. Complete the management of the troops. The young master reclaimed the land of one breath into fertile land, distributed to residents. Haver asked himself, I should have hated this guy. But I always felt like he had become a completely different person. I even think that the current young master is not bad. I hate it so much that I have such thoughts. When Jin Xiuhui snapped his fingers, Haver fell into a deep sleep. A bright full moon hangs high in the night sky. In the dead of night, at the bottom of the Baron's house, Jin Xiuhui and Haver sank into their respective sleeps. an assassin in a black cloak, pushed open Kim Xiuhui's window. The assassin gritted his teeth as he watched the bed finished. Slowly pull out the long part of your waist. The intermittent points to the refinement of a deep sleep. Then jump up and thrust hard. Assassins are often found at the same time. Haver, who was asleep, jerked up from his chair. Like a swift cheetah pounced on the assassin. The sword was lightning fast and used a dose of sword drawing. Just for a moment, the assassin's sword and left leg were severed at the same time. The sounds of fighting and screams woke Jin Xiuhui. When he sat up from the bed, the assassin had been subdued by Haver. It turned out that this man was a knight in the realm of Rachna. A few days later, Jin Xiuhui is inspecting the pipeline construction site. Loudly remind workers to be safe. Haver came behind Kim Xiuhui. Tell him that he has handed over the fool to Viscount Rachner. Haver couldn't figure it out. The reason why the stupid magpie is eyeing Jin Xiuhui. Jin Xiuhui said as a matter of course. The cost of rice has led to an increase in expenditure. This may have fired the foolish magpie. If it's me, I'll do the same. With such a high monthly salary. Was beaten so badly by the bastard in the territory next door. And then he hated me. That's what most villains think. Haver asked, even more incomprehensible. You've already guessed it. Why not take precautions? You're too comfortable, aren't you? Jin Xiuhui heard Haver's question. Said with an incredulous expression. What to say? With you by my side. What else do I need to do to prevent it? Kim Xiuhui's answer. Like a hammer on Haver's heart. He didn't expect the young master to believe in him so much. Jin Xiuhui went on to say that it was because of you. I can do things freely. Because you are a capable person. Trustworthy guy. Think about it by common sense. After the whole village was attacked by monsters. A lonely child. Without any help. Is it possible to survive the cold winter? And the people who do it are right next to me. In front of knights. What could be more reliable than that? The sound of a hard shell cracking. Quietly sounded in Haver's heart. There seems to be something. The two of them looked at each other in the eyes. Time fell silent. Haver has always been like wood. Quietly on the side. The first to be defeated was Jin Xiuhui. It's embarrassing for him to complain. Can't you just answer that? The teacher said that I regret it very much now. They all got goosebumps. I shouldn't have told you. At this time, Haver's face slipped uncontrollably. A drop of clear liquid, but it was quickly dried by him with his magic power. Haver guessed that the young master should not have noticed. Then he struggled for a long time and looked away, looked diagonally to the side. He replied lightly, I know, Jin Xiuhui. Completely defeated by this guy who cherishes words like gold. In order to play a round to relieve the embarrassment. Quickly patted him on the shoulder and said it was awesome. Worthy of our Haver. Very good. Ha 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 ha. A thought popped into Haver's mind. What's wrong with me? I hate myself so much. At this time, the system suddenly prompted Jin Xiuhui. Haver unraveled the long-standing royal sister in his heart. Opinion increased by 15. Positive opinion of you is 6. You gain 320 RP by drastically improving your relationship. Currently holds 1,675 RP. Jin Xiuhui suddenly said happily. Tomorrow will be the end of the rice construction. Then we immediately set off for Cremo. This time I can make a lot of money again. The man was accompanied by an attendant. Go and meet a large client with strong assets. The big customer kept his mouth shut, and the business left him aside, but desperately to please his attendants, and wants his daughter to marry the attendant. The squire's expression was indifferent, and he didn't know if he could do it. The course of events completely shocked the man. After the completion of the construction of rice, Kim Xiuhui led the convoy to Cremo. But because Jin Xiuhui doesn't know how to ride a horse at all, can only be cheeky on Haver's horse. Haver was almost annoyed by the guy behind him. If you can't ride a horse, it's hard to take him. This guy is even brazen. Sleep on your stomach. Sleep and endure it. I was snoring and drooling while sleeping. There is no aristocratic appearance at all. By the bumps of the horses. Haver secretly slapped Jin Xiuhui on the shoulder. Jin Xiuhui's sleeping Jin Xiong was woken up at once. Indignantly asked, "Did you hit me just now?" "There's nothing wrong with me. You seem to have hit me. Did you see that?" Jin Xiuhui pouted and said, "I heard what you just said." As a nobleman, he didn't even know how to ride a horse. Sitting in the back and dozing off is a real nuisance. "You just knocked me out of the way, didn't you?" Haver calmly said that you were exaggerating. Urine disaster is not at the level of what you make up. Kim Xiuhui didn't want to argue anymore. "Raise your hand to stop the line." Then he rolled over and jumped off Haver's horse. Depressed, he said to Haver, "You tell me to ride a horse." Haver decisively refused to the point that I didn't want it. "I'm a knight, not your equestrian teacher." Jin Xiuhui said strongly that this is fate. Haver rolled over and dismounted, and said, "Too lazy to tell you." Jin Xiuhui drilled his fist and said angrily that it was hateful. "What did you just say?" Haver glanced at Jin Xiuhui. "Say I don't understand what I'm saying." Jin Xiuhui was mad by Haver's eyes. "I really want to duel him right away." However, considering the strength of both sides, it was decided to forget it. At this time, the system suddenly pops up a notification. Rumors spread faster than anything else. You were the first person on the continent to build rice. You have made a name for yourself as an architect. Your name will be written in the kingdom and on the continent. In the history of architecture, awarded 600.2 horses. It currently holds 2,275.2 horses. This unexpected reward surprised Jin Xiuhui. Then he thought of something even more exciting. There is a reputation for being an architect. I will definitely be able to take on bigger projects. You'll be able to make more money. Haver said something at this point. Again, let the refinement go crazy. One will be angry and the other will laugh. Young master, did you take the wrong medicine? This is a small episode on the way to Cremo. There is still a long way to go from Cremo. Haver didn't want to be used as a pillow by the young master every day. I had no choice but to teach him to ride a horse. Of course, the sarcasm of Jin Xiuhui is indispensable. As the party gets closer to its destination, the weather is also getting colder. Ultimately, it took a whole winter to get to Creno. The Count of Crenalt personally came to greet him warmly. This made Jin Xiuhui very happy. But he didn't know. His humiliating career is about to begin from this moment. Jin Xiuhui saluted Count Cremo. "And to introduce yourself, hello, Earl. I am the Fleur Trau family." He was halfway through his words when he was interrupted by Count Cremor. Count Cremo said happily, "It's completely different from what I imagined. I've heard you're a very powerful architect. I thought you were a fierce man. But I didn't expect you to be so extraordinary." The Earl bypassed Kim Xiuhui and went straight to Harvard too. Said with praise without hesitation, "You are simply the nobleman of the nobles. Even if you say that you are a royal family, some people will believe it." Ha ha ha! Jin Xiuhui felt his own words. Not interrupted by the Count. It feels more like choking on now. The Count of Cremo went on to say, "Do you have a fiancé? If you don't have it, you can dig it out with my daughter Jin Xiuhui." If the old man continues, "Most of the time, I want to drink Haver wine here." Finish. The last resort birth interrupted the next change of the Earl. This move angered the Count of Cremor. He will have a perfect son-in-law in no time. At this time, an eyeless corner suddenly jumped out. Ju turned his head and roared angrily at Jin Xiuhui, presumptuous. Just one of them dared to interject. Dialogue between the aristocracy. Jin Xiuhui was stupid. "It's not that I'm stupid by Ray. Something is wrong with the world. It's still my own problem. System." It was the inhumanity that made up for Jin Xiuhui's face. When the Earl of Krem figured out the identities of the two, instead he smiled even more. By the time he was almost smiling, used his own methods to appease Jin Xiuhui. Say sorry, and then go on to say that you are also at fault. Why did you have a squire face? Ladies and gentlemen, look at what the Earl said. It's not like when you quarrel with your girlfriend. It's always you who is wrong. Jin Xiuhui finally understood that it was not the world that had problems. It's his own fault. Although Jin Xiuhui was depressed, he was not angry. Because learn from the Predator Night novel. The Count of Cremo was so heroic, confident and bold. In fiction, after Haver killed the lender, turned into a wanted criminal, you can only hide everywhere. Eventually, he was personally arrested by the Count in Creno. But the Count had only a brief conversation. He affirmed Haver's character. He then served as a solid backing for Haver. Played an important role. Count Cremo told Jin Xiuhui the purpose for which he bought the gemstones. It is a bronze statue that decorates the sea. Because from a few years ago, monster Gigatitan, it is frequently seen in the front sea of the port. Although no direct damage was caused to Cremo, but it caused fear for passing ships. As a result, Cremo's trade volume is shrinking. Then, Jin Xiuhui suddenly recalled the plot of the novel. Because the Navy is helpless against the creatures of the sea, Creno gradually declined. The Count was also in bankruptcy. As a result, the novel suddenly ended in this matter. The author not only leaves a lot of foreshadowing without explanation. I didn't even mention whether it would continue to write a second season. The Count of Cremo then told Jin Xiuhui, after he consulted a lot of information, know something important. The merfolk are the strongest warriors who rule the seas. It is also the object of fear of the best titans. So he wanted to be in the middle of Qianai, build a bronze statue of a mermaid. But now the idea was abandoned by him. Because of the construction of a bronze statue, water needs to be filled into land. Ships will not be able to enter or leave the port because the waters are too shallow. After hearing the Count's description, Jin Xiuhui began to think of a solution. The Earl was silent when he saw Jin Xiuhui. Thought he was worried about the cancellation of the deal between the two parties. He was then promised to fulfill his promise to buy his gems. Jin Xiuhui thought it through. Said to the Count with a smile, if I can help you build a shadow, a bronze statue of the depth of the water, are you willing to increase the price of the gemstones? It turned out that Jin Xiuhui remembered two construction techniques, anti-makeup and agarwood. Both technologies are applied at the same time. It can solve the current problem. After signing the contract with the Earl, the two came to the front sea of the port to conduct on-site measurements. Jin Xiuhui took a deep breath. Then dive your head into the water. Turn on the scan skill to check the situation at the bottom of the sea. Trimmed ready to use the soft rock layer as a 10-grain layer, supporting the upcoming construction of the bronze statue platform and pedestal. After searching for a long time, I couldn't find the location of the soft rock formation. The freezing water made him shiver. I couldn't stand it anymore, so I had to raise my head and rest. As a result, after being gently stroked by the sea breeze, his face was touched. Such as the city. For the first time in his life, the face of the wall became blushing. Haver smiled happily on the side. Jin Xiuhui's teeth warped and asked what you were laughing at. Haver replied honestly, as always, that he was sorry. Master, it's also the first time I've seen others in pain. Would be so happy. Haver looks at Jin Xiuhui is going to break out. Hurry up and change the subject. I really can't imagine. How do you lay a straight foundation at the bottom of the sea? Unless you're going to cast magic. Jin Xiuhui mysteriously said that it might be magic. It's a magic called cement. Say this at the same time. Jin Xiuhui thought in his heart. How do I make cement in this world? If it was Roman cement, maybe it could still be made. The two returned to the dock in a noisy and laughing mood. At this moment, a sweet voice came from behind him. A beautiful blonde girl holding a love letter said shyly, Lord Shoitsontrai, I have something I want to give you. Jin Xiuhui thinks. Kramer is a wonderful city. Here he ushered in the first confession in his life. This man is miserable. The perfect goddess in his mind. confess to his good brother in front of him. His good brother confessed to the beauty. It doesn't matter at all. What kind of brother is this? A break has been made ever since. At the end of the video, 3 cute little babies will appear. Your skills have been improved again. The beautiful blonde girl introduced herself. I am the daughter of the Count of Cremo. Christine, I saw yesterday. Lord Lloyd passed by the courtyard of my house. The girl clutched the love letter with both hands and said shyly, Lord Lloyd. Kim Soho looked at the beautiful girl in front of him. The heart pounds uncontrollably. I have already gnawed 1,000 ways in my heart. The girl finally mustered up the courage to send the love letter in her hand. Please accept this letter. I saw the love letter stretched out in front of Harvard's ear. Jin Xiuhui's face was like a layer of rust. Haver, on the other hand, is indifferent. Jin Xiuhui said to himself over and over again in his heart. Forget it, isn't it just a love letter? Besides, this girl is also average-looking. In the eyes of Jin Xiuhui, Haver sighed helplessly. As a result, love letters are casually stuffed into pockets after that. Expressions are always expressionless. The girl's heart was like a deer. The 6 gods have no master. Embarrassed, he turned around and said, oops. He took it. What to do? What to do? Haver waited for them to get away. Let's go. Jin Xiuhui said with a calm face, wait. You bastard. Your attitude of not taking things seriously. It makes me extremely unhappy. Haver asked curiously, what do you mean by that? Jin Xiuhui said hatefully, after you just received a love letter. Why so skillfully stuffed into your pocket? Haver grew stranger and asked what was going on. Is there anything wrong with this? Haver saw the young master's indignant expression, finally understood why he was angry. Then he looked at Jin Xiuhui in disbelief and said, have you never received a love letter? The wounds in my heart were ruthlessly torn apart by others. Jin Xiuhui suddenly felt resentful. Why people are so different from each other. Haver was so sad to see the young master. I don't know how to comfort him. After thinking about it for a long time, I said, please come on. Handsome guys can never feel the pain of ordinary people. Refined luxury grief. Work hard for the power. There is only one thought in my heart, not to envy him. I want to make money. I'm going to be rich. It's good looking, but it can't be eaten as a meal. Then, Count Crenalt came up behind Jin Xiuhui and called out to him. Jin Xiuhui turned his head viciously and angrily when he found out that it was Party A's father who came to him. Immediately become a trot with a smile on his face. Come to the Count, the Earl said to Jin Xiuhui. Most of the materials you need are found, but volcanic ash is too hard to find. This news made Jin Xiuhui very depressed, because volcanic ash was a key material for Roman cement. The Count then spoke cautiously. It's not that you can't find it at all. It's just a bit of a hassle. Need to go to the place where the volcano is. It will take half a year at the earliest, but I can't wait that long. Jin Xiuhui confidently said that you don't have to worry. I have other alternatives. Jin Xiuhui dared to guarantee this. It's because he also prepared another plan. Portland cement was used instead of Roman cement. Kim Soho knows the constituent materials of Portland cement, but I don't know the detailed ratio. Now we can only find the best ratio little by little. The new fix locks himself in the office. Once again, he entered the state of all things that he concentrated on his work. Trial after trial failed. Then repeat the trial again and again. The voices of the outside world are automatically filtered by him. 3 little babies were by his side. Quietly accompany them. I was worried that the owner's body would collapse. Xiao Bodong wanted to ask Jin Xiuhui to play with him. Jin Xiuhui said that he was not available. Little Hama and Little Bell joined in. The 3 babies asked Jin Xiuhui to play together. Jin Xiuhui still didn't agree. Jin Xiuhui's head was constantly shaken by the 3 babies. Finally, he broke out. Don't bother me, I'm busy. 3 babies were murdered. Aggrieved, sticking to Jin Xiuhui. Suddenly, a regret that he buried in his heart. Unstoppable eruption. He was the last family member left with me. I'm really sorry. I really want to play with you one more time. Jin Xiuhui suddenly hugged the three babies tightly and said, "Let's go play." Compared to the current research, you guys are more important to me. Bright moonlight. Three babies laughing and playing happily in front. Jin Xiuhui slowly followed him behind him. I didn't expect it to be just a simple walk with them. Can make him happy like this. Then he blamed himself and said that I was really a bad person. Three babies don't understand. Why did the master suddenly say that? At the same time, he looked back at him curiously. Jin Xiuhui continued to speak silently. Ever since I came into this world, everything went well. All the time, I'll just do it like that. Construction machines command you like a machine, and then continue to laugh at myself and say that I really don't have a long memory. I'm sure I'll regret it again. Suddenly he stopped, but squat down the body. I looked at the three babies in front of me and said thank you. Thanks to you guys. A prompt box pops up. The fantasy servants feel your sincerity. You with fantasy poo. They all think of each other as their own family. Interaction with fantasy poo. Hierarchy is a master-servant relationship. Rank up to peer relationship. Open fantasy poo strengthens the function. Please unlock the fantasy poo through the fantasy poo enhancement. Heart skills need to be refined with 520 grades. I can't believe there's such a good thing. Say 2 words and you'll be rewarded. Little Budong and Little Hama push the little bell in front. The meaning is obvious. This opportunity to give the little bell. Jin Xiuhui asked, "You've decided. Give new skills to small leaders." The three babies nodded yes at the same time. Jin Xiuhui respected their choice. The system dialog box is brought up. Please select the fantasy servant that needs to be strengthened. Fine-trimmed and selected small bells. I saw a circle under the feet of the little bell. Dazzling light. The light wrapped around the small bell and flew into the air. Dazzling golden light and surging energy. Squirting out from the body of the little bell. The system prompts that the small bell has been strengthened successfully. Unlock new skills. The little bell is in addition to the original 3 skills. One more skill, volcanic eruption. Jin Xiuhui was shocked by the new skill of the little bell, because this skill is exactly what he needs most at the moment. With the help of this skill, there is no need to study the ratio of cement. It's amazing. Can you believe it? This mushroom cloud rising into the sky. Actually, it's a cute girl who just farted. The next day on the side of Kramer, a mushroom cloud suddenly erupted in the call. The inhabitants of the city were shocked by a loud noise. After the flame is extinguished, the dust in the sky drifts away with the wind. It turned out to be golden autumn. How and Haver test Little Bell's new skills. Volcanic eruptions. Jin Xiuhui scanned and analyzed the dust drifting in the air. In the end, it was determined that it was really volcanic ash. He told Haver about his delight. Unexpectedly, Haver was deafened by the voice just now. Kim Xiuhui shouted sorry to Haver. "I forgot to remind you." Haver couldn't hear anything. How could Jin Xiuhui let go of this good opportunity? "You're too ugly to be loud." Haver replied calmly. "The lover of your dreams wrote me a love letter." For the specific plot, please take a look at Manga. 33 episodes. One sentence of commentary once again knocked Jin Xiuhui into the abyss. In order to collect volcanic ash, give the little bell. Giant urine that filters volcanic ash was created. Attach 5 layers of screens to the tail of the diaper. Filter volcanic ash. Then the little bell unleashes the volcanic eruption skill. The Count looked at the magical scene in front of him. Sighed that Jin Xiuhui is not an ordinary architect. Not only with never-before-seen engineering, and he also used summoning. If this project can really be realized, he was ready to take the matter to His Majesty the King in detail. Provide a bigger stage for Jin Xiuhui. Show his talent. After the collection of materials for making cement is completed, the next step is to start making agarwood. The jade will be prepared in advance, spliced according to the design size of Jin Xiuhui. It was made in no time. The next step is to insert the agarwood into the water and fix it on the seabed. Now it's time for Hama Jr. to show his talents. Take a sip to drain the seawater inside the agarwood. Next step, humanoid pile driver. Haver drove an anti-slide pile at the bottom of the agarwood. The length of the anti-slide pile should be long enough. This can be inserted into the soft rock layer of the seabed. After the last stake, Haver asked when the next batch of stakes would arrive. Refined how Jin Xiuhui replied, "You wait a little. The stake is still on the way to be delivered." Piling for young people is indeed addictive, but in moderation. Haver saw the bustling expression of the refined Hao Jin. "I always feel like I might be unlucky." Then he said honestly, "Young master, this look on your face makes me very uneasy." Sure enough, Jin Xiuhui is going to be cheap again. He said shyly, "Why are you so obedient today? Don't say I'm a knight." Why do I want this phrase? Haver saw Jin Xiuhui's expression. "I always feel tired," but it reminded him. He dropped the hammer and left. Casually said that it didn't matter. "I'm a knight. Why am I hammering stakes?" Jin Xiuhui said hypocritically, "You are my guardian knight. If Haver doesn't, will hammer. I won't have any money to pay off my land. I'm going to faint from it. The Baron and the Madam were worried about my case. Maybe you'll get sick too. Knights, please protect our family. Isn't it good?" Knight-sama. Kind-hearted Haver was helpless. Only here can you pick up the hammer. Regularly tune Haver between stake deliveries. Keep Haver's morale high at all times. Wait for the anti-scratch installation to be completed. Use another of Little Bell's skills to make a steel dragon. Finally, the agarwood is filled with cement. Wait for the cement to solidify and remove the agarwood. The artificial foundation at sea is completely completed. Refine and introduce to the Earl. This foundation is 50 centimeters above the surface of the water at high tide. It originated after the bronze statue was put up. It looks like it's floating on water. The Earl said heroically, "If this foundation can hold up to the bronze statue, the construction money will definitely not be disadvantaged to you when the statue is installed." The Count threw a big party. Congratulations on the closing of the statue. The people who attended the party were Kramer's upper class. Jin Xiuhui had to wear a constipated dress, just as he was complaining to Haver. The Earl pointed to where Jin Xiuhui was. "Introduce to the guests present. This youth is assisting the first-class hero who established Mermaid Alley." Then, all the people gathered around Haver. Praise Haver without words of praise. Jin Xiuhui was left to the side like air. Jin Xiuhui told himself over and over again, "Don't get angry, don't get angry. I expected this to be the case. I don't care about that. What I want is to pay me quickly." But this bastard has an indifferent look on his face. The more you look at it, the more angry it gets. The Count is a real man. I also love to tell the truth. Haha, it's all because you have a squire face. At this time, the Count called for a reintroduction. This is the project for the construction of the foundation at sea. Just when the party at sea reached its climax, in the depths of the sea, a huge black wing appeared, gradually approaching the mermaid statue. Excellent titans appear on the surface of the sea, looking at the mermaid statue from afar. Merfolk are their natural predators. It's a memory carved into the blood. When he saw that there was only one mermaid, Piga Titan felt like a good opportunity. It was decided to get rid of this natural enemy. People who are immersed in a joyful and peaceful atmosphere. But they didn't know that danger was coming. Pay attention to the belly of this little chubby dun. It's a space of its own. Not only can it inhale a large amount of water, now even a living person can fit in. Seeing Xiao Hama go into battle, he will make great contributions. Haver didn't like this kind of upper-class socialization. Sitting alone in front of the boat drinking wine. Suddenly, he had a wine glass in his hand. It shook slightly. It made him feel bad. Then he looked up at the sea in the distance, sensing the source of this power. When Jin Xiuhui came to his side, he didn't seem to see it. Huh? For suddenly said that something was approaching here. Jin Xiuhui asked something. Can you know his size? Haver replied that he didn't know what it was. But it's fast. The volume is at least twice as large as this ship. It's a little bigger than the maximized Little Hama. Jin Xiuhui immediately guessed that it was an excellent Titan. He hurried to the Count's side. Tell Earl that the Titan of the Great is approaching. Evacuate now. The Count took the news very seriously. However, in order to avoid panic, it needs to be verified. Command the Knight of Genovan feel the movement of the ocean. Geno is versatile as the Earl's personal bodyguard. The strength is certainly unquestionable, but he felt it for a moment. But I didn't notice any movement. The Count weighed again and again. Euphemistically said to Jin Xiuhui that Genovan military attaché. Extremely sensitive, almost to the point of Juggernaut syndrome. His judgment can be trusted. The words are very polite, but it was also clear that it did not believe it. The best Titans will come, Jin Xiuhui thought to himself. Our Haver is better. He is the true Juggernaut synthesizer. Of course, this kind of raising the bar must not be said. He was helpless and didn't know how to convince the Count. The Count wanted to ease the awkward atmosphere. Easily said to Jin Xiuhui, don't worry. Several Titans never arrived. He has no reason to attack us either. The Earl's casual words suddenly reminded Jin Xiuhui. Jin Xiuhui looked solemnly at the mermaid statue on the side. I think there is a reason. Kim Xiuhui's hint is obvious. The Count understood immediately. Sinovan was convinced that his judgment was correct. The decision rests with the Count. He couldn't risk the lives of 5 boats. Immediately ordered fluffing. Keep all ships away from the mermaid statue. The sailors desperately turned the winch. But the ship's hair was too bulky. This results in a slow recycling rate. Haver told Kim that it was too late. Jin Xiuhui decided not to consult the Earl again. Decisively, let Haver solve the problem of the ship's hair. Haver received the order to immediately jump into the sea. Jin Xiuhui then threw Xiao Buodong at the mermaid bronze statue. Xiao Buodong began to eat red melon seeds in the air. By the time it fell to the mermaid statue, it had become larger. Haver cut off the ship's hair with a blasting chop in the middle of the sea. Xiao Buodong was responsible for biting the rope next to the statue. Unexpectedly, Haver had just severed the ship's hair chain. The chief family Titan has appeared in the field of vision, then approached with a speed visible to the naked eye. 5 boats are just beginning to disperse. The great Titan's long hair on his head rushed out of the sea. The impact, the huge hull belt stands upright. The current little Buodong is too big. The target obviously has nowhere to hide. Meet the best Titans who are bigger than him. It scared the hairy child out of nowhere. The great Titan slammed into the mermaid statue. Together with Xiao Buodong, they attacked indiscriminately. The bronze statue of the mermaid was smashed into pieces and flew towards the city. It crashed down on the streets and buildings of the city. Haver uses the thrust of the blasting skill. Rush out of the sea. Came to Jin Xiuhui's side. In the face of many people who fell into the water and called for help. Jin Xiuhui called Hama Jr. out. Let little Hama use a boring skill. Inhale the person who has fallen into the water into the stomach along with the seawater. Excellent Titan in order to chase the mermaid bronze statue. They came to the shore, and they were about to rush into the city. Haver reminded young Master Jin Xiuhui loudly. The Giga Titan stormed into the city. We got to stop him. But when he turned around, saw Jin Xiuhui rowing away from the city. Haver King Hoops said, where you go. The Titans are on the other side of the city. Jin Xiuhui roared angrily. Are you stupid? Stay away from that kind of monster. Of course. Can you beat that monster? To go is to die. Jin Xiuhui's approach shocked Haver. He didn't expect Master Lloyd to run away in danger. That man was not an immortal cultivator, not even a trace of aura in the body, but with superb understanding and violent means. Successfully practiced martial arts and could also meet flying. Little Hama spit the person in the stomach to an intact ship. The Count was working hard to organize sailors to rescue those who had fallen overboard. The Chi Titans are raging wildly in the city. The world is plunged into hustle and bustle. But there are two key people. But it is incompatible with this chaos. Jin Xiuhui shouted to Haver to come over. Let's go together. Haver stood motionless on the wreckage of the ship. Questioned Jin Xiuhui. You are intended to be to the people in need. Turning a blind eye. Ding Xiuhui said confidently. We're here to make money. It's not here to defeat monsters and keep the peace. They have artillery, they have troops. I'll do it myself. Haver looked at the young man he had admired. He used to be clever in times of crisis. Intelligence also shows the obsession of never giving up. He didn't get stuck either. The people of the realm sat idly by, but he felt that the young master in front of him was so unfamiliar. For the sake of self-preservation, chose to abandon those in need. It turned out that my expectations of him were all my own fantasies. He was still a selfish man in the end. At this time, the system prompts Haver. Opinion of you drops by 5 points. Favorability towards you is positive, although your relationship with the main character deteriorates. But the RP will not be recovered. Currently holds 1,901 RP. Haver pulls out slowly and is common. Absolutely say, I can't do what you say. Jin Xiuhui watched Haver draw his sword. I guess his decision. Yelled at him about the sick virgin. If you go, you'll die. But Haver was already on his feet. Gently and forcefully leave the ship's remnant sea. The pedal sword suit uses the explosive skill on the sea. Meet flying. Quickly got out of here. Hovered to be mad by the Giga Titans. Raging cities. At this time, the turrets in the city are frantically attacking the Great Titan. However, all the shells were bounced off by the excellent Titan. Not even a minor bruise. The soldiers were shocked by his hard shell. The Titans were not injured, but they were enraged. I saw that the plate armor on both sides of his head suddenly turned up. Muscle tissue with black holes is exposed. Suddenly, 2 dozes were ejected from the black hole, one left and one right. The water jet slammed into the turret. Turret's made of hard rock. It was smashed like tofu. After solving the turret in front of you, several Titans frantically pounced on the shattered mermaid statue. It's like a giant chariot rampage. Destroy anything that stands in your way. Just when the life of a resident hangs by a thread, Haver wields a common blast slash. With a roaring flame of power, a blow slashed at the joint of the Giga Titan's leg. Chop off the falling leg of the Giga Titan. Haver didn't expect the Giga Titan's shell to be right. Not only could the blaster not hurt him, instead, he was slashed by bullets. The Giga Titan fell under his feet. This made him even angrier. Rise huge recessed front. Slam it down on the human who had angered him. Haver jumped to dodge the angry blow. When I was in the middle of the air and had no point to borrow, the Great Titan's water jet attack is oncoming. There is nowhere to hide but to resist this attack. The furious force sent Haver far away. Blood spurted out of his mouth uncontrollably. Haver was badly injured and did not flinch. Hold a long sword in your hand, barely supporting his crumbling body. Still firmly in front of the Great Titan, Haver knew he couldn't beat the monster. Maybe I'll die here. But he still had to stop the monster. Until all the people are evacuated. The other side of the picture. After Haver was gone, Jin Xiuhui was rowing hard. Tell yourself over and over again. I'm not alone. The hero of the killing. My skills are all for construction. It's not a whip at all when it comes to fighting. Even if I went, I wouldn't be able to help. See the city destroyed. Residents were injured one after another. I'm also saddened. But what can I do? Suddenly, Kim Xiuhui stopped rowing. because he really can't make it up. This kind of self-deception is repeated 100 times. He still knew he couldn't let go. I can't abandon it myself. He could have done something. Just because of his evasion. Haver could die. People may die.